Hey, what's up YouTube? My name's Josh. This is Blackwater Fine Woodworking. In this video, I'm going to show you how I built a rolling cabinet for my shop to help organize all the tools and things I use with my CNC machine the most. It was pretty easy to do. You don't need a whole lot of tools. And now everything is much more organized and neat and easy to find and easy to grab when I'm working on my CNC or even finishing cutting boards and other miscellaneous stuff that I like to build. So if you want to learn how to do it yourself, stick around and let's check it out.
So I had tools and bits spread out everywhere. Just not working. I want to be able to sit in those chairs. So I cleared a space in the garage here to unload the sheet goods and get them broken down. Use my new Craig Rip Cut. If you guys want to see my setup and review of that, you can click the link. Thing's pretty handy. If you guys are liking my content, please hit like and subscribe. Get those notifications. Be seeing a lot of new videos coming up. I'm making a simple box here. It's all going to be pocket hole joinery. I do like my Craig 720 Pro here. I got it mounted to a little board that I can then clamp to my work table there. So a very simple box, basically 16 inches square. I put all my pocket holes in the back panel. That way the screws are biting into the meat of the side panels. Always use clamps when you're doing pocket holes. Your panels can move on you. And then the top and the bottom are just identical squares here. Also pocket hole joins. And fitting this all together, again, always clamp your work because your panels are going to want to move on you, and that way everything's nice and flush and square. The Carcass here is 3/4 birch. I end up doing the drawers at a 1/2 inch with 1/4 inch bottoms, and you'll see how I do this here in just a few. So there's the box. I wanted it to have wheels, so I installed some casters. I put a couple locking casters and then a couple just plain swivel casters. Using a self-centering bit, I pre-drill for the screws. And I got them all fastened. Once you figure out how big you want your drawers, you can start ripping down fronts and sides, fronts and backs and sides. I decided I wanted 3 larger drawers, 2 medium drawers, and then 1 very shallow drawer. And you'll see why. You can see I have a job site DeWalt saw, so I can't really use dado stacks because there's not enough meat on the arbor. But this here is a stack. It's actually for box joints, but it's about as wide as I can stack blades. But I can get a nice 1/4 inch dado as well as a 3/8 depending on how you situate the blades. So I cut dados in my drawer box fronts, backs, and sides in order to affix the bottoms. And you'll see what I mean. So I'm just doing dados here. Once I put my boxes together, I can slide a piece of 1/4 inch birch plywood down into those dados, and fasten the fourth side onto the box, and you'll see exactly how I did that. Keep all your fronts and backs and sides straight so that you know how to put these things together. Again, just using pocket holes. I do like pocket hole joinery. Very simple. And these will never be seen because I put them on the fronts and the backs. So assembling the boxes, I use a little 90-degree clamps to keep everything straight, and then I've got my parallel clamp there laying on the table just to keep everything standing up. So get these two corners nice and flush, slide my plywood in, put that fourth side on, and these things go together really quick. And there they are, just sitting in there with some spacers just to see how well my math turned out. Slides are simple, just use your same, I just use a piece of wood, but I use the same spacer for every slide so that everything's nice and equal. Get your first drawer figured out and your slides can go in then. And then I use some just 1/4 inch plywood strips for a spacer for the box. And you'll pull those slides out and get your first one done, and then you can pull the drawer out a little, get your second screws in, and then take the whole drawer out, and you can get the last screw on each side into the box. Put it back in, takes a little bit of force just to get it to click in, and then good to go. I put soft closers on here. And so for the heck of it, I thought I'd go all out for a top on this thing. So I had some of these scrap 2x4s left over from cutoffs from another job. And so I thickness planed them down and then ripped them into square stock. And I decided I'd do an end grain type butcher block like I like to do with my cutting boards. Of course, this is just 2x4s, pine, so this was mainly just because I had the scrap, and why not, right? Make it look nice. So we glue these up straight. I take some cawls with tape on just to keep everything as flat as I can, so to relieve sanding and flattening later. And the tape keeps the glue from gluing the 2x4s to your panel there. But again, no big deal if it's not perfectly flat, because I went ahead and ran it on the CNC with the flattening bit and smoothed that out. You can see some machining marks there, but this thing gets it pretty daggone flat. I guess there could always be a little adjustment done. Once that was set up and dry, I cross-cut it. Again, to perfectly square as I could get. And this is how I do a lot of my cutting boards, with the end grain, 2 different glue ups. Yes, I need some dust collection in the woodshed. This is not the garage. This is the little shop I have out back. And so we'll flip these over and then flip them side to side to get some alternating grain pattern. Double check my measurement to make sure it's big enough for the top. Get my clamps and glue ready. And then I'll lay them over. Brush out that glue nice and even. I think I probably used too much glue on everything I glue. So I want this as straight as possible since this is it. I've got my bar clamps on the bottom and some parallel clamps up top. And I let that set up, and it gets flattened again. And then I decided, hey, why not do a V-carve? Once I did the V-carve, I said, hey, why not, let's do a little epoxy inlay. So I mixed some carbon black and some micro pearl. And that turned out pretty cool, kind of metallic. So you can see a little difference in the grain there. That's because I hit it with some spray shellac. That keeps the epoxy from bleeding into all the grain. Makes it easier to clean up once this cures and gets sanded. I won't have a bunch of bleed out into the grain, and it should leave clean edges when I'm done. Here I'm just applying it with a syringe. You can get these syringes at Tractor Supply or different places. So just filled all that in and let that cure for 72 hours or so. And then sanded. And you can see that shellac just sanded right off the top, so that was perfect. And this turned out cool, I like it. Then I just applied, so I had a couple more 2x4s left over. I ripped down and turned that into some edge banding. Super simple. Brad nailed that in. Just on the front and the two sides, nothing on the back. And then it was time to fix the drawer fronts. I use playing cards for spacers. This is perfect because you can dial in exactly how far you want it spaced out. And again, another Craig jig. This thing is just too handy. You set your center point and then measure, make sure you're in the middle of the drawer. And I did some pretty cheap handles, but they're gonna work just fine. And there you have it. This turned out really nice. I put some tung oil on the chopping block top there. And I'm loving it. Super organized. Be on the lookout for the next video where I show you how I made these organizational trays for the drawers on the CNC machine. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time. Blackwater Fine Woodworking.